It is true. Hypnotherapy will work because you're going to be a part of the process and you're going to do what you can do to make it work.
Yeah.
I have to be very clear with my clients, like I am a guide. I
Yeah.
know what I'm doing and I'm really, really good at it. But can I get everybody where they want to go as fast as they want to go? No. And often, not always, but often, the client is not as deeply participating in the work as they would need to for it to be effective.
Hello, and welcome to episode 167 of Toward a Better Life. This is your host, Kevin Pennell, and thank you, dear friends, for tuning into the program. Regardless of where in the world you might find yourself, our lives do depend on just kind of going with the flow, with the natural rhythms of life. And I'd like to mention about, the wheel of the year and going with the seasons. It's a natural flow of life to ultimately aim toward balance with the natural world. And this is the timeless message of Toward a Better Life, going with the flow in the rhythms of life. And that's also performed through implementing balance, harmony, compassion, kindness into our lives, personally, culturally, and spiritually. And this all begins with each one of us, you and I, as individuals. And I like to share these concepts on this podcast from around the world, seeking others of the same spirit, heart, and mind. Now, through the application of the many insights and teachings that we have on the program, we can become better souls, better spirits, true human beings, that continue that journey toward wholeness and harmony, not only for you and I, ourselves, but for the generations to come. I also offer the opportunity for you to share your prose, your music, your poetry, your storytelling on the program. Just send it to me, and I'll certainly take a review, and don't be surprised. You may be on the show. Please subscribe to the program if you haven't done so already through your favorite podcast platform, and keep following for weekly magical insights into earth-based spirituality, self-development, and self-care. Also, remember to support the program by leaving a review on Apple, Spotify, Podcasts, whatever platform you use. It just takes a minute to do that. Do visit the website, too, towardabetterlife.com, where you can contact me to learn more about a free discovery call to help you on your own journey, along with some prior episodes, learning opportunities, and services that I offer outside the podcast, plus a few accessories to assist you on your own journey toward a better life. The website also shares information about upcoming events that I have, like a continuing ed class for massage therapists coming up in Charleston, South Carolina, the end of this month. Contact me through my website or send inquiries to kevin@towardabetterlife.com for this and any other inquiries you might have. Well, so I'm welcoming Michelle Walters to the program today. Michelle considers herself a voracious imagination advocate, a clinical hypnotherapist, and AI advocate. She likes to write and speak on themes associated with the subconscious and self-development and personal growth. Michelle has blended her passion for marketing with hypnosis and AI to create what she calls MakeMyHypno. It's a first-of-its-kind custom hypnosis app that makes you a personalized audio recording delivered to your inbox in a matter of minutes. Please welcome Michelle Walters as we discuss how you can author a new life through hypnosis. In this episode of Toward a Better Life, I'm welcoming Michelle Walters to the program to talk a little bit about some hypnotherapy from her perspective. Hello, Michelle. How are you, and where are you located?
I'm great today. Thank you so much. I live in the Bay Area in California.
Cool. And why don't you tell us a little bit about your background? And you have what is termed as a clinical approach to hypnotherapy, which is very, very beneficial to folks. And tell us a little bit about Michelle, and we'll kind of go from there.
Sure. So I grew up in California. I've spent most of my life here, not all of it. I got an MBA and worked in the business world for over 20 years, working in the fields of digital marketing. Because I love creative things, I love persuasive things, and I really love kind of understanding people and what's behind their thought processes, how to see if you can turn your listeners into triers or buyers or that kind of a thing. And then in about 2018 or 2019, I read a book called A Hypnotist Love Story, a novel. And I thought the lady's job was so cool that I wanted to figure out if I could do that. So I Googled it and I found a school in Marin because we have those kinds of schools in California. And I went on the weekends and got a certificate to be a clinical hypnotherapist. Then during the pandemic, my life kind of went and like dropped out from behind me. And so many people were changing what they did. And I was like, this is the universe saying the door's open. If you want to do something different, now's the time. So I hung up a shingle and started work as a clinical hypnotherapist, helping people with a wide variety of problems from anxiety to phobias to bad habits, weight loss, smoking, a lot of the common things that people go to see a hypnotherapist for. And I have just loved doing this work.
Cool. And I think you've got something new that you're going to want to talk a little bit about, but I also see over your right shoulder, there's a book there, ABC of Conscious Leadership.
Yep.
And is that kind of moving around hypnotherapy as well, or is that something a little different?
It's a little bit different. So I've actually written two books. This is the one that came out last year in 2025. I wrote another book in 2022 called An Alignment of Spirit, Finding Work You Love. It is a book really about manifesting and the law of attraction.
Hmm.
And it's a great book with science and stories and a real kind of practical, not terribly woo approach to the science of manifesting. And then last year, I decided to write something completely different and wrote an ABC book for conscious leadership. So in the ABC book, it goes through a trait of a conscious leader and then gives an example from my life, my stories, an example of someone famous in history who represents that, and a nice little affirmation. So A is for authentic, and that's Abraham Lincoln, and B is for brave, and that's Lucille Ball. And it goes through kind of the whole thing. It's a very warm and light way to remind and refresh oneself about positive leadership traits, but in very bite-sized pieces.
Oh, okay. All right. And those books, I'm guessing, are available on Amazon, or you probably go to your
Yep.
website, they can find
You
them.
can get them through my website, and you can also search for them and find them on Amazon.
Okay. Tell us a little bit more about, you've just done it, but can you give us a little bit more detail about clinical hypnotherapy? So what I do is I've done a lot of work in life between lives. I've done a lot of work in things of that nature, past life regression work, trauma therapy, things like that. And what is, I know that we talk about habits and things like that we need to change. What are some of the other qualities of clinical hypnotherapy that can help people out?
Clinical hypnotherapy covers a wide array of issues. I occasionally wind up having a client for past life work or work that might be similar to yours, but that's not really the focus of my practice. The focus of my practice is very practical kind of stuff. So it's maybe somebody who is really nervous about going back to work after a long break and needs to do some looking inside to better understand where is that coming from and why, and what can they do to ease that transition. People who maybe have had a bad habit. I had a client who had been pulling out her hair, one little hair at a time for over 50 years as a nervous response to things. And through hypnosis, we got to where was this coming from and how to stop it and how to adapt some new habits so that she could grow her hair back. This was a lady who had an area the size of a silver dollar missing behind her ear.
Oh my gosh.
And I like to joke that, she came to me with one problem that she had this missing hair piece, and she left with another one because she needed hair extensions because her hair was starting to grow back. So I've helped people with all kinds of problems, phobias, fear of bumblebees, fear of planes. I've helped people with all kinds of anxieties, social anxiety, and then sometimes specific anxieties like driving anxiety. I had a client who had gotten her driver's permit at age 18 and had been so nervous about driving, she had never sought her driver's license until she was in her 50s, and her husband had his license taken away for health reasons, and she was going to have to be the official driver. And so in her 50s, I helped her get over that fear of driving so that she could attain her license and be a driver. So it can be really a life changing uh, technique to overcome a wide variety of personal, in your head kind of obstacles.
Okay. So one of the things that I'm hearing too is that you, like many of us, like to go to the root of the problem and not just take care of a symptom that you might have. Just because we can give post-hypnotic suggestion that tells you that every time you pick up a cigarette to smoke, it tastes like crap, and that's going to keep you away from smoking. But that doesn't really take care of the problem. That just gives you the pill, basically, the
Yeah.
hypnosis pill.
Yeah.
And what you do is you go to the root of it.
Yes. Because that's where it's going to be effective. I was reflecting on this the other day and reminding myself of a client I had a couple of years ago. This is a woman in her probably her middle late 60s, maybe 70, who came to see me because she just couldn't lose weight. That's what she told me. She was so frustrated. She had tried everything. She wanted now to try hypnotherapy and see if that would help. Well, as we began to work together, I came to discover, because she shared with me, that she was married and her husband had Alzheimer's and it was getting worse and worse. And she really needed to figure out if it was time to bring in some additional resources or move him to a memory care facility or something like that. And this husband senility Alzheimer's situation was something that she wasn't dealing with.
Hmm.
But it was really kind of at the root of her failing to follow her own rules about what she wasn't going to eat. And in the kindest, gentlest way I could, worked with her to figure out how to take action, what action to take on the front of caring for the partner who needed her care, who needed her leadership and direction as to how his health was going to be handled. But until that problem was solved, it made sense to me that she would have trouble losing weight because that
Mhm.
wasn't really the issue. It was
Yeah.
this other issue that she needed to work on. And I don't know, this happens with, I don't know, 20 or 30% of my clients. They show up saying the problem was one thing, and then after a few sessions, we realize there's more to it.
Yeah. And that's often the case. It's like I like to use the analogy a lot of times of peeling an onion.
Hmm.
You go through the layers until you can find the core of the situation, and that can be life changing. There's no doubt about it. You can really help people move through stuff and really get an idea about why. Um, and I can remember times where I've done the quit smoking thing, for an example, or the weight loss thing, and you find out stuff like emotional eating and things like that. But you find out, why is it an emotional eating? Well, it's something that did take place when they were very, very young, or it took place when they're in their adolescent times, or whatever. And it's like the little light goes on. You can see it. That,
Yeah.
oh, wow,
Yeah.
there it is. That's the
Yeah.
problem.
What once people can find meaning in they can have a story about where something came from and how that connects to what's going on with them that's unpleasant that they want to release and let go. It becomes so much easier to say, oh, this is because this happened in my childhood, or this is because I wasn't loved the way I needed to be loved, or whatever might have been missing for them to have resolved that issue previously.
Yeah, yeah. I don't want to get away from us too far because I know that you've got an app that you were talking about that you're pretty excited about. And the other piece, of course, is self-hypnosis. Which one do we want to talk about first, Michelle?
Let's talk about self-hypnosis first.
Okay, let's do that.
So, so self-hypnosis is the process of taking yourself into, like, without me, maybe with a recording, maybe without, but taking oneself into the brain state of hypnosis, into a trance state. And in that state, going through the ideas and thought processes that are going to help you let go of where you are and transform to where you want to be. And self hypnosis is extremely helpful for a wide variety of people. Me and many other hypnotherapists will use it as an adjunct process of our work with clients. So it is not at all unusual that I'll be working with a client on maybe stop to overeat sugar or cut back their alcohol or whatever they might be wanting to do. And I will recommend or provide them with a recording to listen to between our sessions that can then support and help facilitate that transformation. What I did with my app is kind of take that one step further. So, because of my background in digital marketing and because of my work as a clinical hypnotherapist, I thought, you know what? We have some new tools in the market that I can string together in a really clever way to be able to make custom self hypnosis recordings for people in a matter of just a few minutes. And that's what MakeMyHypno does.
Okay, okay. And you say it's just a matter of minutes. Now, is it you that's doing the actual work on the app, or are
It's
they?
all automated.
Okay, so
So,
give us some examples.
yeah. So, for example, my client Frida really wanted to get to the gym. And as opposed to listening to a regular self hypnosis track like you might get from my Etsy store or from YouTube or from wherever, she got a script from MakeMyHypno.com. And so the process for ordering it is super simple. You put in your name and what you want it for, your happy place, any additional touches. You put in your email, you pay, and then about 10 minutes later, the script is generated and emailed to you. So you have it in your possession forever. It's not in an app you have to go back to. You can just download it to your phone or computer and listen to it anytime you want. It belongs to you. What is kind of magical about these recordings is that they are very personal and very fast. So, between the time when you complete your purchase and the time when it lands in your inbox, it's typically about 10 minutes. It is done with my directions and my voice. The whole thing comes out in my voice. And the recordings are about 15 or 16 minutes long. And Frida has found great success. And another client got one for imposter syndrome and closed a big deal the next day. And another person has gotten one for sugar and stopped eating too much sugar the following day. I have about 20 different uses for it that you can pick when you order one. And then you can add these additional details to really shape it to be exactly what you want. Now, there are some things it doesn't work for because I don't think that that's the right way to use self hypnosis. Like, for example, if I need to help someone quit smoking, I want to work with them individually because I found that that seems to work best as opposed to a single little script with no person involved. Um, so that's just not on the list. But there are lots of other things. There's positive thinking, there's exercise, there's stress, there's driving anxiety, all kinds of things that can be helped with the recordings that come from MakeMyHypno.com.
Okay, so is the script, is that an AI thing? Is that how it's working?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So it's doing
So
an AI of your voice?
it has special instructions that are how I write hypnosis scripts for things.
Hmm.
My metaphors, the things I would refer to, things I wouldn't refer to. And it makes an AI duplicate of my voice. So it turns the words into my voice
Hmm.
and it puts the whole thing together and emails it to the client. Is it as good as me sitting down at my microphone and recording for a person? I don't think it's as good, I'll be honest. But I think it's about 85 or 90% as good, which is pretty amazing considering how easily and quickly it can be produced.
So is it effective for, see, I'm going to pick up trauma. So if you have somebody that's dealing with trauma, is it effective for that, or is trauma something that you're going to need one-on-one with somebody?
I think there's kind of little t trauma and big T trauma.
Okay,
For
I'll go
for
with that.
for smaller traumas, I think Make My Hypno might be somewhat helpful, but I don't think Make My Hypno recordings are going to be nearly as helpful as working with an individual therapist like you or me for the bigger, harder things. How I think about this is that Make My Hypno recordings are great for sort of pointing or tipping your energy in a certain direction,
Okay.
but they are not, it's not an interactive process, right?
Hmm.
Not very. You just put in a few little bit of information, you get something back. And when people have bigger issues like habits of 50 years and
Hmm.
massive trauma from their childhood that's still unresolved, I find those clients do better working working with me individually.
Okay. Okay. That makes sense. And you mentioned too that this is like a single use. You would go on, you would access the app, and you would do a single script, and that would be the same script that you're going to listen to until the issue is resolved. Is that my understanding?
Yes, that's what I recommend is that people get their script and listen to it many times. Some people see results after one listen. Other people don't see results until they've listened several nights a week for 3 or 4 weeks. It
Okay,
kind of depends on the person.
sure.
Depending on what your issue is, you might want to do one script for one thing and then do something else to grow that a little bit more. So the example of weight loss just always makes it easy to talk about, but if you wanted to imagine yourself losing weight and maybe going from I don't know, say 200 pounds to 180 pounds, you could create one recording for that. And then when you've gotten down to where you were trying to get to, you might see yourself a little bit differently. You might want something to address the new you who needs to slim down even more. You might create a second recording for that.
Okay.
But I do, I often get asked, well, could I get a recording for weight loss and a recording at the same time that's also for my fear of airplanes? No.
No, no.
No, you can't.
Those are two separate things
Those are
entirely.
two separate things. And your subconscious does not really want to work on both
No,
simultaneously. You want to work on one, and then when you've reached progress on that one, take a look at the second one.
that's something that I'm working with that in the last few episodes. We seem to return to that concept and that ideal of I want it and I want it all now. Well, that's nice that you want it all now, but that's the society and that's the culture we live in. And sometimes we need to go back to older methods that say, no, just one bite at a time, one thing at a time. And I see it so often. I see it, for an example, I see people, I'm not a psychologist, but I know the terminology when we're looking at bipolar. And if somebody is in that state of mind of being on at the moment, they'll get started on one thing and then they'll do a domino effect of, well, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, and then I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, but I'm changing. No, you're not really.
No, no.
You're confusing your system, and you need to isolate and you need to work with one thing at a time. Is that true?
Yes. Yes. I have had a couple of clients who for whatever reason like they like a woman I remember a couple years ago came to me and she's like, my number one issue is stress, but I also really want to lose weight and I think it's related to the stress. And I was
Okay.
like, okay. In that case, we will work on stress as the focus, but realize that this may also be related to your eating habits. And she was able to let go of the stress. Once she let go of the stress, then she could control her eating habits. It wasn't a big deal. So there are occasionally some things that kind of go together, but for the most part, I find it is better to put things in order and do one thing at a time.
So, when we look at your website, you've got some classes and events and books and things like that that you've got up there. So, classes, do you do like group sessions for people, or what are the classes about?
So I offer a few different classes. Two of the most common classes that I offer frequently a few times a year are hypnosis for sleep, because I
Mm.
find there are a lot of people who are struggling with sleep, overthinking, can't kind of the monkey mind
Hmm.
at night. And hypnotherapy can be very helpful at uh, breaking down what's going on there and
Hmm.
clearing out those energies in order to help people with a smoother path towards long, deep, and restorative sleep. And the other class that I offer that's quite popular, I offer it several times a year. I call it SOS, Stop Overeating Sugar, because most Americans are eating far too much sugar. And I have found that uh, through a lesson that I teach on better decision making, and then followed by a hypnosis session specifically for anti sugar, that I'd say most of my students benefit and report that they are eating less sugar as a result. And, this might be a very small way I could make a dent in America's obesity problem. There are all kinds of big ways people are trying to make a dent in that problem, but what I like about the work that I do in my SOS sugar class is that it's all natural. It's really just leaning into being better aligned with yourself and what's going to be good for you and how to make good choices, followed by teaching your brain that you don't have to pick up sugar all the time. You're going to be okay. And and it helps people. And they like it. It's a positive result.
Yeah. And you can certainly dovetail sugar into sleep loss.
Well, I mean, when I say that we have to handle things individually, you do have to handle things individually, but there
Oh
are
yeah.
things that relate,
Oh
right?
yeah.
You
Yeah.
eat. I had a client a few years ago who came to see me. Well, really, his wife organized the work, and he wanted to see me. He was an older gentleman, and he didn't sleep very well. And a large part of this was that he was getting up multiple times a night to use the restroom. And when I started talking to him, he's like, well, I have my dinner. And then after my dinner, I really enjoy, I have a beer. So he's drinking this beer at 8 p.m. every night.
Mm.
I'm like, I can help you, but we got to get rid of that beer.
Hmm. How'd that go?
I I think, as I mentioned, his wife was the one who organized the work. And I think she was sort of looking for another messenger
Uh-huh.
to
Validate.
to validate and recommend some behavior changes. And he saw some improvement, but I don't know. I haven't followed up in the last little bit here to
I
see
get
if the
it.
beer is still a
Yeah.
part of the process.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
It,
and
it,
and Michelle, it's those little things that we don't think about. We were taught, oh, have a little hot toddy before going to bed. It'll help you go to sleep. That in itself is a very true statement. It will help you go to sleep. It won't help you sustain sleep, though, because
no,
after about 2 to 3 hours, you're going to wake up and you say, "Why am I awake?" It's because all the sugar that was in that alcohol just kicked in
is
and
now in your system.
and
Yeah.
making you wake back up. And you say, "I
Yep.
can't go back to sleep." Well, now we know
No,
why.
no. Most of the people who come to my sleep class have really tried most everything.
Mm-hmm.
And so for them, a lot of them anyway, it's not a matter of a cooler bedroom um, or drinking beer after dinner. For a lot of them, it's really uh, kind of an untrained mind that has adopted bad habits in terms of, well, what about this? Well, what about this? This is happening tomorrow. This happened today. Should I have said this? Should I have done that? And you can't go there. You the door to sleep opens because you learn how to let that stuff go and put yourself into a state where your body can rejuvenate. That's the purpose of sleep.
Mm-hmm.
And I can help a lot of people take control of that process so that sleep, the door to sleep is wide open.
Yep. Yep. And that's what does it. And that's what makes it help. And really understanding why is it that I'm doing this. It goes back to that root problem instead of dealing with the surface stuff. I want to find out why you're doing that. And that's really where the magic starts to take place when we find that. And it's lovely to see that in a client because
Hmm.
they realize they've had a part in this. And I think that's part of the magic of hypnotherapy is that the person that is under hypnosis, they are taking an active part in this process. And you know where I'm coming from with that because a lot of times
Absolutely.
we're accepting this stuff and yet we're not really a part of it. We're just kind of separated and we let the physician, we let the surgery, we do all these different things being done to us. But if I'm actually in the process of doing it, that's going back to the
It
even
changes the
yeah,
whole energetic process,
yep,
right?
yeah,
It changes the way the whole thing works. So it is true. Hypnotherapy will work because you're going to be a part of the process and you're going to do what you can do to make it work.
yeah,
I have to be very clear with my clients, like I am a guide. I
yeah.
know what I'm doing and I'm really, really good at it. But can I get everybody where they want to go as fast as they want to go? No. And often, not always, but often, it's that the client is not not as deeply participating in the work as they would need to for it to be effective. And sometimes, I've run into like folks who were autistic or folks who had sort of something going on where getting deeply involved in the work might be a little harder.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I've certainly had my fair share of clients who I was like, look, I made a special recording for you. You need to listen to this recording and then come back and see me in 2 weeks. They come back in 2 weeks. Have you listened to your recording? No.
There you
Okay.
go.
You know, I mean, it's kind of like anything in the world. You get out of it what you put into it.
Hmm.
And uh, back to your point that so many people are looking for the immediate fix,
Hmm.
that there are things that you can fix with money and there are things that you need time.
Hmm. Well, and you just said it a minute ago about compliance. Doing hypnotherapy and doing anything as I'm going to say a service provider. And I'll even say this for any professional out there is trying to help people. And I'm saying it to the people that are listening to this in the sense of if you're doctor, if you're hypnotherapist, if you're dietitian, if whoever is trying to help you with this matter, it really does make a big change when you are compliant, when you do some of the stuff that we talk about. And if you don't, you won't. And I get
Yeah.
that all the time. I'm sure you have gotten your share. And you say, well, I'll see you next week or I'll see you next month. And we just keep going over the same old thing. And at some point, there's a point where you say, we're not going anywhere until you really get involved in this. Have you had to do that
Mhm.
much?
Not often, but a couple of times, yes. I'm thinking of a client who came to see me 2 or 3 years ago, and her energy, I don't even remember exactly what we were working on. Her energy was kind of all over the space. And I was one of quite a number of people she was working with on her issues.
Hmm.
She had a I don't know, I want to say like a nutritionist and a physical therapist and a this and a that and a this and
Hmm.
a that. She had lots of people,
Sounds right. Yep.
and she had lots of people, and she, made it to her appointments and so forth. But then I would be like, okay, so it's been 2 weeks and I asked you to journal about this, or I asked you to listen to this recording, and oh, I couldn't get to it. I had so many other things I was doing.
Hmm.
Okay, and with her, we sort of came to a stopping point,
Yeah.
and I was like, I think we've gotten as far as we're going to get right now with this project.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
Um,
it's it's hard to do that, and yet you're absolutely right, Michelle. And again, that's why I say, and that's why I got on my soapbox there for a second. If someone is asking and suggesting, and you've asked them to do this to help you, it's so important to be compliant, to really, even if it's a little bit. If we ask them, listen to the recording maybe 5 nights over the next 2 weeks, and they listen to it twice. Well, they've tried. At least
they
they've,
tried. They
yeah, yeah,
twice.
big,
I would be
yeah,
happy with twice. I would
yeah,
be thrilled with twice, right?
yeah.
Twice meant more than once,
Hmm.
honestly.
Yeah.
Um, I can think of another client I was working with last year who we were struggling to accomplish what we were trying to accomplish, and she wasn't doing the things that I had asked her to do, and we didn't accomplish what she wanted to get done. And I felt bad about it, but also like I know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And if you choose not to do these things, then you are choosing not to make this progress.
Yeah.
So, I mean it's hard.
It
I
is.
don't want to make the my asks of clients between sessions very steep or hard or
Mhm.
difficult. That's not the goal.
No.
But we can't meet every day. We can't check in every day. We need to have some way of keeping this process, this therapeutic vector direction active, and so that their mind doesn't lose track of where we are and where we're going. And and, and some engagement is often important
It,
between
it,
sessions.
it comes back to accountability.
Hmm. Hmm.
Hold
We
yourself
live
accountable. Yeah.
we live in a world where accountability is really kind of all over the place right
Yeah.
now. you
Yeah.
know I mean, I'm single and I've looked for guys to go on dates with, right?
Yeah.
But if you find somebody on an app, you got no idea who this person is,
It's true.
right? It's not like I'm connected to, his mother's cousin or something, which, like, in days of old, people met through networks,
Yeah.
right? That kind of a thing. And so really, I mean, that's just one little example, but our our worlds are very, very different in terms of who we have business or personal relationships with, and and how they support accountability, because they don't always.
Yeah. Yeah.
And people, I think people, it's kind of sounds like I'm being negative about people, but I would say that we've had so many big advances in technology that it does make the whole accountability side of things that much more questionable, or uh, creepy or something like that. I mean, I can't say that I'm against it. I'm not. I have a voice duplicator that duplicates my voice in my app. Like
Yep.
I'm part of the party.
Yep.
But and do I emphasize that? I don't usually emphasize that. I just don't shy away from it. But it does put things into this more gray state of what's real and what's not real.
Yeah.
And
Well,
in a way, hypnosis leans into that, but there is also a place and a time in our life where you shouldn't be leaning into it. You should know what's real and what's not real.
that's it right there. You've just nailed it. And I think the thing that I appreciate when we began the conversation about AI and about your app and things like that, and you were very specific about it, and I appreciate that there are some instances where this thing is great, this thing is wonderful, but there are times where you really do need to be one-on-one with someone, and you can see the difference when someone gets on and they purchase. I'm guessing that they purchase uh this app without any previous contact with you, and then after the fact, that's when the contact takes place after the purchase.
Yes. I do get people's email address as part of the purchase process, and I have a very gentle follow-up with my purchasers to see how it's going. I hear back from some of them. I don't hear back from all of them, as I would expect from this kind of an app. I haven't seen that many people contact me for one-on-one work that started off as an app purchaser, but I think that could happen over time. I think that the markets are a little bit distinct, right? Like
Mm,
people who would find benefits from the app are are not people who at that moment, at that time of purchase, are dealing with massive trauma. It seems like people can kind of, and I've talked to other hypnotherapists about this, and they've been like, well, won't this take away from your business? I'm not seeing it take away from my business. The clients who've purchased apps, if they see me one on one, they still see me one on one
yeah,
because they're distinct deliverables. They do different things. Does that make sense?
it does. Well, the other piece of all of this conversation we've gotten ourselves into about accountability and technology and things like this, I think a big portion of this personally is understanding that these are tools. They don't control your life. And as long as we maintain the control over it, then we're fine. If we allow it to overtake us, now there's a problem. And that whole dialogue can go into so many different facets of our life. It can go into our use of cell phones, and it can go into our use of news. It can go into our use of how much stuff do I really believe? Well, I got it on Wikipedia, so it's got to be true, really. And all these different things that we put our trust in something without critical thinking. And that's an issue, is really think through the process and say, okay, and if you don't, and I want to try and be like a devil's advocate here for a second. So I go out and I get the app and I try it, and it's okay, but it really doesn't do the trick. Not really what I want. And what I'm hearing is you have the avenue, and the you make the effort to get in touch with these people to find out, is this working for you? And
Yes, I do.
if they're honest about it and they say, yes, Michelle, this thing is really working and I'm really feeling better. And then you're able to, as hypnotherapists, we're able to read the person well enough to understand, are they feeding me a line of bull to get me off the phone, or are they being sincere? And you can
Yeah.
say, okay, and we can't say that, oh, that's not true, and it's not. We can't say that, but we can try to work around stuff to say, okay, what can we do to improve this for you? And maybe I need to make another tape. Maybe you need to do another script. Maybe I need to meet with you one on one. And those are the options that need to be out there so that we don't lose the contact with people, because that's I think is where it's really, really important, is to maintain that contact.
And part of what I want to do with Make My Hypno is just establish some goodwill and trust,
Yeah.
you know, because there are clients who are ready to put in a call and say to me, I need help with XYZ, and let's start next week. And things get going very quickly. And there are other clients who I've seen, because that some of them might be on my email list, right? They might be on my
Hmm.
email list. And in 2024, they bought a pre recorded weight loss thing. And in 2025, they came to a free group.
Mm-hmm.
And in 2026, I get a phone call, and the problem hasn't gone away. It's just that it didn't get to the point where the person was ready to pick up the phone for a period of time.
And with all
And
due,
and that's kind of, I mean, maybe she didn't have the money. Maybe it became more pressing. Maybe her doctor said, you got to deal with this. I mean,
yeah,
I don't know, but
no, we don't, but at least we make the effort.
yeah,
And I
absolutely.
think that's the important part. And some people simply aren't ready to commit. You
No,
know,
no.
how often do you ever run into it where people will start a process and they'll go down the road a little bit, and then it starts to get difficult, and that's when it says, I don't want to do this anymore because it's too hard.
Oh, I've had it happen with clients coming to see me, that they might have a difficult session with me, and then the next one gets, oh, I'm sick, I can't come. And it
Hmm.
takes a little while to get them back in the office. And it happened. I mean, it doesn't happen all that often, but a couple of weeks ago, I was looking at my week and I was like, oh, I'm meeting this new person on Wednesday. Great. I can't wait to learn who she is and what's going on with her and that sort of thing. And then I went back and looked at my calendar later the same day, and the appointment wasn't there anymore, and could look at the system and say, oh, this person made an appointment and then she canceled the appointment.
Hmm.
No
And
idea
we,
why.
and that's
No
it.
idea what, I don't know if it's because she's going to call next month, or if it's that she found someone else, or if the problem went away. I have no idea.
Yeah.
But this is the always being flexible part, right?
Yeah. Be available, and we
Yeah.
make ourselves available, and that's all we can do. If you have someone who has issues, what regardless, we've talked about a lot of different ones for examples, but if someone has some issues and they are maybe a little apprehensive about hypnotherapy for whatever reason, what are some thoughts that you could give them to help them through that decision-making process?
It's good for people to remember that hypnotherapy is a completely natural and consensual process. You cannot be hypnotized if you don't want to be. Hypnosis is something that you allow yourself to go into that state of trance, that state of being between being awake and being asleep. And that, even if you've seen comedy routines or that kind of a thing, the people in the comedy routines are doing that because they're okay with doing that, not because they're being forced to do that or paid to do that or anything else. I love to talk to people one on one and answer their questions. And I have a big button on my homepage that says book a call so people can get a hold of me. We can just have that conversation. And then also back to my classes and events, I have an event I do every month. I call it Nourish and Flourish. And Nourish and Flourish is a group hypnosis session on a Friday at noon that everybody's invited to. It's free, and people come and they can hear my voice, and they get a little 3-minute explanation of what is hypnosis and a chance to try it. And it's a nice way for people to realize, like, hey, this there is an element of it that's kind of magic. But for the most part, I really think of it as leveraging one's brain states and patterns of habits and how people think, and cognitive biases, and all of this great jammy stuff I just love, to help people switch from
Hmm.
where they are to where they want to be.
And I see there that it's a Zoom call.
It's a Zoom call, so it's open to anyone.
The conversation I had a conversation with another hypnotherapist a while back, and we were talking about doing stuff via Zoom, and I was asking, oh, for crying out loud, how effective can that really be to do a hypnosis session via Zoom? And he told me about some of the statistics that are coming out nowadays that actually it's more effective because the person is typically in a very relaxed atmosphere, aka their home or
Yeah.
wherever it might be, but it's
Yeah,
someplace they're comfortable.
so I see clients on Zoom, in their homes. And I also have a physical office where I see clients in the East Bay of California. And my observation is that the results are pretty much the same
Mm-hmm.
for my clients, whether we're on Zoom or they're in person. What I will say is that for the clients who can come and drive to my office, I think they're a little happier because it just feels good to be with people, you
Yeah.
know?
Mm-hmm.
But in terms of the results, when that's what you're focused on, the client with the driver's license, she was in Portland, I was in California. Like I have lots of clients that I've served very effectively on Zoom, even
Mm-hmm.
local clients who just for, time needs or whatever, we do it on Zoom.
And I will say, since that conversation that I had with that hypnotherapist, I've had a few sessions via Zoom, and guess what? They worked.
They work.
Yeah,
They work because the client lets them work. If the
right.
client, has got cats coming into the room or hasn't put the children to bed or whatever, they're not going to work very well.
On other editions of the podcast, I mentioned when I do the guided meditation stuff. I said, don't do this driving down the road, and don't do this for when you're doing something that requires your attention. Go find yourself a soft spot in your home, close the doors, keep the kids out, and enjoy yourself. And that
Absolutely.
that way you'll get the most out of it. So yeah.
Absolutely. Well, and I know we're all told not to sleep with the phone by the bed, but I also know that almost everyone I know does. And so for a lot of people who are purchasing my recordings or who get my recordings as part of our work together, I recommend people put them on their phone and listen to them as they fall asleep
Hmm.
because it doesn't take any time out of your day to do so. And even if you think that you've fallen asleep before you get to the good stuff where it's telling you you're going to do whatever, it doesn't matter.
That's
Your
right.
subconscious can hear it while you are asleep because although we don't think about it, our subconscious is listening when we're asleep and it will take in what it needs to from the recording.
Bravo.
So and for people who are really good and following that recommendation to get that phone in another room, okay, great. You're going to have to find the time. But for the people who are honestly like me, it's a great way to just fit in fit in as much as you can in the day.
I've had that question come to me a few times about, well, I started the process, but I can never get through. I usually fall asleep. I said, it's okay. It's all right.
Absolutely. It's
Because it
perfectly
goes,
fine.
it goes, like you just said, it goes into the subconscious, and we don't realize the power of the subconscious. And if we can go off on Carl Jung here any moment, but you know, the power of dreams, but it's
Oh, I love the
effective, and
power
it's
of dreams.
yeah,
No,
it's
I had a I had a client who I've made a number of recordings for this client, and she said to me once, she says, I don't even know what's in your recording because I always fall asleep. And I was like, well, it won't hurt you if you want to listen to it someday while you do the dishes. You can listen to it and see what I'm saying. Like there's no magic here, you know. Um, but but it does work without you having to be awake for it,
yeah,
which is pretty amazing.
yeah. So if someone wants to get in touch with you, you have a very effective, a very, very, I'm going to say a very friendly website. And
Thank
it
you.
is just simply michellewalters.net. And you just go there and you've got some classes, events, books, services that you offer, and more, and all kinds of good stuff. I just noticed podcast. You have a podcast?
I got a podcast too. Yeah.
Yeah,
I've been
okay.
doing a podcast for a couple of years. It's a two-person podcast with me and my friend Cynthia Varkevisser. We call it Mind Power Meets Mystic. And I'm the Mind Power because I'm the hypnotherapist, and she is the mystic because she's an intuitive healer.
Okay.
And we talk, we have solo episodes, we invite people on. We're just wrapping up a series on the chakras and
Okay.
how chakras relate to jobs. It's been interesting. So
So that's like I said, just there's your website, and that's
yeah,
probably the best
people
way
can
to.
just go to my website and then click the big button, book a consult. It's the quickest way to get on the phone with me. For my app, it's called MakeMyHypno.com. MakeMyHypno.com. And you can go there and create your own recording. And as a thank you to you, Kevin, and to your wonderful guests, I'm going to give you a special code to put in the show notes so that your listeners can get some money off their purchase.
Awesome. That's great. Alrighty. Any other things that you want to share before we wrap up our conversation?
This has been a fun conversation. Very, very fun. I appreciate it. Thank you for this opportunity, and thanks to your listeners.
Yeah. So what does Michelle do to create a better life for herself?
I like to go camping.
Well, welcome to the club. So do we.
I'm a camper and a hiker.
Okay. And that's enough said in and of itself. We have our little camper and we take off and just do our thing. That's great. All righty. So Michelle, thanks again for being here on Toward a Better Life, and just enjoy your day. That's great.
Thank you. You too.
Well, that wraps up the show for this week. I do hope you enjoyed it. And thanks again to Michelle Walters for sharing her thoughts on authoring your life through hypnosis. Be sure to check out the links in the show for connecting with Michelle and her website. Then, as always, a very special thanks to you, dear listener, for tuning into the program. Remember, if you're seeking insights and advice on how to create the better life for yourself, if you'd like to dive into some self-care, self-development, experience hypnotherapy or distant shamanic work or Reiki, drop me a line, kevin@towardaBetterLife.com, for your free discovery call. In that call, we'll be talking about your goals, set some plans to achieve them, and move forward with your journey toward a better life. You can also visit the website towardaBetterLife.com for past episodes, blog entries, ways to enhance your spiritual journey, and some upcoming events. Please subscribe to the program through your favorite podcast platform and leave a review if you would on Apple, Spotify, whatever podcast platform you might be using. This helps to spread the word about the program, and it helps the algorithms. Also, remember, if you'd like to share your story, your music, your prose, whatever you'd like to do, or if you'd like to be my guest, just write to me, Kevin@towardaBetterLife.com. Until next week, enjoy your journey toward a better life.